Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for attending. I'm thrilled to welcome Ricardo Carvalho, the Chief Digital Officer of Secil, to the stage today to present. Ricardo has been a fantastic customer of Domo's for the past couple of years. He's a really innovative leader driving digital transformation across what I think he would agree is a traditionally disconnected industrial landscape. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Perfect. But even if you are not within the manufacturing world today, there's some great learnings that Ricardo is going to share in terms of how to really build a governed data foundation to then give AI-enabled products to his organization. So without further ado, I'll hand over to yourself, Ricardo.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Just a show of hands from the audience here. How many of you are working with manufacturing, industrial companies? Show of hands. Oh, quite a few. Nice. Very good. So, you probably don't know my company is basically a cement manufacturer that we have in the countries that you have there. We have 5,000 people. We produce 10 million tons of cement a year. For those of you which are not very familiar with the industry, concrete is the most consumed product in humanity after water. So it's a big product, and it has also a big challenge for our industry because it's also one of the big CO2 emitters in the world. Around 10% of the CO2 that is emitted to the atmosphere has to do with construction, and a big portion of that is cement. So it's a big challenge for our industry towards the future. Now, what are the challenges that we've got in industry, not only cement, but in all industry, is basically around how operational technology meets information technology. So here's our reality before we started. So we have it's now 102-year-old factory, which is still operating in Portugal. And we have another one in Brazil, which is 15-year-old. And you can imagine the difference between the equipments, the software, the hardware, and all of that for those different kinds of plants. So we have several hours of lag in quality results. OT and IT didn't really speak to with each other. Plant data was trapped in operational technology silos. And in the end, machines were talking, but no one was listening. Yeah, no one was accessing that data. So what we have done since is have a single platform with 50,000 tags per factory. We now went from not knowing for hours what was going to happen with our data to have predictive alerts now. We have data properly captured where we can actually do AI. And we build a unified namespace where all that data sits and can be leveraged. So basically, now we are at the stage that we can start actually doing something meaningful about AI instead of a simple chatbot. Yeah. Why is industrial data different? So that's kind of the schema that most industrial companies have, and you can see the complexity. And that's just simplifying the existing complexity. Numerous point-to-point integrations, data all over the place in silos. That's kind of the reality of any industrial company. Most of the times, industrial companies, they haven't invested as much in terms of information technology. So I will tell you my main ERP is from the 90s. So imagine talking with APIs with that thing. Yeah. Excel is the universal translator. Everything is in Excel somewhere. And sometimes people ask me, how do you do the operations of your factories? And which channel do you use? And I typically say it's email, phone call, or shouting. That's how typically it works. So, and you also have a translation problem. All of these things need to be integrated. If you want to do AI in the future, you cannot oversee and you cannot leave behind the plumbing of data and where your data is going to be, because that it will affect quality, governance, and in essence, the quality of your AI. So our solution was to go for a unified namespace. So that's kind of the architecture we have now. It's basically an event-driven hub and spoke architecture. And basically what we did was we standardized two things. We've standardized the protocol that we connect things to the UNS, and we've standardized the data model. That means that everything that is in as a spoke can read the data of the other spokes seamlessly. Okay. So these are the challenges. I've mentioned a few. We had data silos everywhere, delayed insights, manual processes with high cost and low efficiency, and this is the response that we had. We started to have a unified data platform, which we use Domo for. We now have real-time analytics. We now starting to increase our AI-powered operations. We have automated workflows and data-driven operations. So that's kind of the change that we have made in the last few years. Now let's go a bit deeper on how we did the data ingestion, governance, and all of those things. So we basically use a typical medallion architecture where we have bronze, silver, and gold data, and you can see kind of some of the details of it, where we have a raw data representation from mixing OT and IT, so the data that is in our factories, on our shop floor, and also the data on our carpet floor, on our corporate center. We have a unified and enriched data layer. The ISA 95, for those of you which are not familiar, is a standard that basically drives our data model. So our data model is mimicking the ISA 95 model, which is very, very much used in many industrial softwares. It's nothing new, but it's a very good starting point for you to normalize your data model. And then on the gold side, we have, at the moment, 36 data mart certified KPIs. We have AI and ML connected with it, and we have right now approximately 200 business users using it. Now, talking about each one, the bronze layer, this is how we have established it. So we have PLCs and scale in our industrial sites. We have an IIoT platform. We use MQTT as the standard language, talking with an MQTT broker. And then that MQTT broker connects with our cloud lakehouse where we use Domo. The enterprise pipeline is going from systems like SAP, Salesforce, Coupa for procurement, and other ones. We connect that via an API gateway. We use MuleSoft for that, and then that API gateway connects with Domo, where we have our lakehouse. So either the data coming from our industrial sites or from the corporate side all end up in the same place. And that's how we build it, the unified namespace. I mean, I give you a bit of an example of the standard taxonomy. It's very, very standard. There's nothing special about it. The speciality about it is being applied everywhere. That allows us to then combine the data and to normalize the data as it gets at ingestion. So we do normalization at ingestion, not in the lakehouse. Okay? And that gives us a lot more flexibility to do machine learning and AI later on, because I don't need to spend time with my teams doing data cleaning. Yep. Normalization is done at ingestion. On the silver side of things, this is kind of the types of canonical models, standardized fields that we have. Just a few examples on how we are normalizing data and following the ISA 95 hierarchy. And that means that hub that is in the center, the data broker, has the latest value for the date, so near real time, and then the lakehouse is where we have the historical data. And this is the gold layer, what we call the nexus. There's a small diagram of showing a bit of the complexity of it. The key data marts and some of the examples in terms of impacting. This allows us to transform ourselves in predictive instead of reactive. We can detect issues that before we only knew them 6 hours after the fact. Now we can do them before they actually happen. And we can predict drifts very, very quickly. And this is also where the data catalog is built upon, so that everyone in the company, being on the shop floor, on the carpet floor, can access the data because they can find it. And this is what I was mentioning, the data catalog. So this is kind of our Google for our data. So if someone wants to build a dashboard or he wants to use the data for something, this is where they go. It's built in Domo, and our data catalog has all the glossary, everything that people will need to use the data. And the purpose of this is to democratize the use of data and not having only the central team that can do things with data. Everyone can do it. Our sales teams are using it. Our industrial teams are using it. Everyone is starting to use, because they have kind of a portal that where they can understand which data is available, what they can get out of it, and they can use it immediately. Okay. So the other thing that we do, we call it SHIELD, is my team loves acronyms. That for some reason is an acronym. Don't ask me what the acronym is about, but yeah, they love the acronym. So SHIELD is one of them. Automated data quality at scale. Basically what we do here is we define the rules in plain language. We also can detect automatic scanning for every data load. We can have rules checking the data that gets in, and we can manage the quality of data at ingression. And we can have fixing the data at the source and not in the dashboard, which is something that I'm sure many of you know. All right, let's talk a bit about AI. I know this is a big theme here. Just to give you a bit of context, I'm going to show a few things about AI here, which we are doing with data, but these are kind of the simple things. The most complex things that are giving us value in industrial is actually applying the AI in the operations directly. It's not as much generative AI. It's the really old machine learning where we're investing the most. Anyway, I just wanted to show you a few things that we are using AI in this process that might give you a glimpse of the possibilities. So the first one is the Domo AI chat. So we can indeed have kind of a chatbot interaction with Domo and create dashboards around it with typical business and industrial people. So it makes the barrier of entry a lot lower. Then for the teams that are actually working with data, doing the ETLs and all of that, we are using the LLM-powered automation, which can evaluate when the team is doing the data ingression, if there are sensitive, personal, critical information that needs to have different treatment, and this is automatically detected by the system. We also have natural language query creators, and we use Jupyter notebooks for LLM to translate attribute descriptions. We are multinational, so there's many different languages, and there are systems that I have in Tunisia that they are in French, and I want to normalize things in English. So we use LLMs to do those kinds of things at data ingression as well. Right. Our view. Some things that we've learned during this process that might be useful to talk about. What worked? So the things that worked well for us was the business case first prioritization. So if you have an industrial company like mine where the technological maturity was very low, when you look at what are the possibilities and what are the things that you can do, they're endless. So how do you prioritize which ones you're going to do first? And we were very, very strict in terms of business case first prioritization. So we only went where we could bring value to the business quicker. And some of those things are not the shiny little objects that you see in the market. So that's why we didn't start with generative AI. We start with machine learning and AI because that's where the value was. The other thing that is a bit controversial is that we started with governance before technology. So we've established governance, and we've created all these connections and these platforms and the way they are working as we were building the governance around it. And obviously, the executive sponsorship is critical. And we did have, in all this process, our CEO involvement and sponsorship. Now, some challenges that we needed to overcome. The master data chaos is a real thing. I have there 6 months. It probably took us more than that. Yeah. Data coming from an ERP that is from the 90s, mixed with Salesforce and mixed with a procurement platform that we were just implementing, master data from our factories. And by the way, what is master data from our factories are things like where is the pump, where is the motor. In a factory like ours, we have thousands and thousands of equipment that we need to know where they are, because if I want to do predictive maintenance in the future, I need to know where the sensors are, so that I can actually make sense out of it. So all of that master data is still a work in progress, but that was a real challenge that we had to face in the beginning, right? Then the cultural resistance is a real thing. I'm not telling you any novelty here. Many people, they are doing things with Excel and they're fine doing things with Excel and they don't want to do anything else. And how do you bring them over? How do you convince them? And how you bring them towards this journey is always a challenge that we manage to figure out. And then I think the hardest part is this last one, the business processes, the black boxes and the siloed knowledge that exists in an organization. When you have an organization that is built upon Excel, shouts, and phone calls, there's a lot of processes that are not documented, that people created them 20 years ago and no one knows why they were created. It was just like that, right? And all of those discoveries that we need to do, looking at the processes from start to finish in the thousands of processes that exist in a company like that, and then translate them to the data layer so that the data layer can interact with those processes is a key challenge. Okay. So again, my advice would be focus definitely on the dollar value for the business, because you're gonna have a much easier conversations with your CFO and CEO, which they're gonna be crucial for getting you out to a flying start. And it will also be a good way to manage your teams, your internal teams and external teams, once you start to have success. When you don't have anything, no one wants to do anything, yeah? But once you start having success, everyone wants to do something. And if you don't have a proper prioritization, everyone is shouting and no one is getting value. Some technical success factors. The unified namespace architecture is really a success factor for us, because it allows us to combine OT and IT data in a very, very flexible and open way. And the thing that is behind the unified namespace is pretty simple. You can do it in different ways. You don't need to do it like we did. We use MQTT as our standard protocol, but you have OPC UA, you have other ones. We do look at our minimum technical requirements, which is report by exception, open architecture, and edge-driven. These are especially important for industry, where you need to do your artificial intelligence or your logic near the edge where the operations are. The governance-first approach served us well. That means that everything that we have on our lakehouse has a data steward, a data owner. It has a process, and we don't need to refactor everything that we've done so far. The hybrid architecture is also very important for us, because we have very, very different needs in our data structure. We have sub-minute needs in some of our operations, in some of our factories, but we have batch processing, sometimes hourly, sometimes monthly, from our SAP and other systems, or our IT systems. So to have that flexibility is also really important for us. The platform requirements around having a lakehouse, governance embedded, and ETL and visualization and open architecture were fundamental for us as well. And once again, I know that all this transformation is about people. That's what you will hear all the gurus saying, and I don't disagree. It is about people, but technology choices matter, and open architecture matters even more, because if you don't take care of those in the beginning, your transformation is just going to take too long, and everyone is going to be impatient around it. Right, so key success factors. The right platform, a unified platform with industrial capabilities and scale, was very, very important for us. Executive sponsorship, the CEO personally engaged. Governance first, so we build the rules, roles, and tools before technology rollout. And to be honest, if you miss one of these, you're gonna be in for a hard time. So I think they are all necessary. So I'm almost finished. I hope you have questions. And these are the things that we also learned. What surprised us? The love for Excel. I mean, you would be surprised how people love Excel, because it's something that they can use, that they know how to do. That also supports different levels of expertise. You have people that don't know anything, and then there are people that are doing very complex things with macros and VBA and all of that. Yeah. So the love of Excel is a real thing. The data governance and data management brings transparency. And this seems like a positive, but for many people it isn't. They don't want transparency. They want to be able to manage data and to manage their bosses the way they want. The minute that you give transparency, you are reducing the flexibility that these people have to manage their own bosses. And that's a real problem for some people. And it's something that is not spoken about, but it's a reality that you need to understand. The other thing is the culture. A data-driven culture doesn't exist in many places, and we are no exception. Our company is not a data-driven company, and that's something that we need to change. Step by step, giving tools in terms of training, upskilling, evangelizing even. The other and the last one is the many activities that that are being brought to us that they don't really have a business case. And when they don't have a business case, what's the typical justification for it? It's strategic. I don't need a business case. This is strategic for our company, right? And I will warn you against it, because that's a very slippery road that you get in once you start doing things just because they are strategic and they don't have a business case. That means that either people bringing them, they couldn't bother to do a business case, or you shouldn't be doing them, most likely. Now, there's a few exceptions for that, and we have those. So, for instance, if it's something that has to do with operational and industrial safety, we don't need a business case for that. We will look at what are the variables that we are influencing with that activity to make our people safer in our facilities, but we don't really need a business case for that. But for most of the other things, we do need a business case, and we prioritize accordingly. And it's a good prioritization method for us that has been working very well for us. That's it. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, well, let's shout. Thank you very much, Ricardo. Q&A now. Oh, let's not shout. So we've got a little bit of time for Q&A. Does anyone in the room have any questions for Ricardo?
There's one there.
Enjoyed this presentation, very good. Just all of us are struggling with a data-driven business and trying to drive the business that way. I suppose the business don't know what they can get out of this stage, so we need to be kind of more proactive and more intuitive as to what their needs. So if you were to pitch it to the business, what kind of data-driven answers could you give to the business at this stage to change that shift of culture?
Yeah. So for us, what worked was our team, first is how do you build your team? So my team, in terms of the digital team, is actually a bit unorthodox. So for instance, if I want to have work done on a cement factory, my product manager comes from the cement factory. So I have people with boots on the ground on the different parts of the business, and they are the ones doing the discovery of what are the things that we could get value from, that we could use data, AI, or other type of technology. And that means that once that discovery is already done within the business, it's not the digital team that goes and preach for the business what are the things that you should be doing. It's really a team effort on discovering what are the things that we can bring technology and we can bring business value together with the business. Or for instance, we do the same with HR, we do the same with procurement, we do the same with the finance area. All our product managers come from that area, so they know intimately what are the issues, what are the problems, and where we can solve them.
I've maybe got a follow-up for you, Ricardo.
Where are you?
Oh, I'm right next to you.
Oh, I thought it was someone there.
In terms of the UNS, I think it's fair to say you were an early adopter to that, with an industry?
Yeah, in my country, yes. In my country, we're probably the first. I think in the US and other big companies are starting to go that way. Especially industrial companies, obviously, where we have all these issues. I think the unified namespace is kind of a name of an architecture, but you can do it in different ways and with different technologies. It's more of an abstract architecture that you can build in different ways. We decided to build this way, but there's other ways of doing it. It's basically an event-driven hub and spoke architecture, which allows us to do these kinds of things very quickly.
I guess in terms of that, like one of the things you mentioned is culture, bringing people on a journey. So maybe could you just tell people a little bit more how you did that? Because obviously, you mentioned in the presentation, like OT and IT don't often talk to each other as much. Like, how did you bring about this transition?
Yeah, that was the first challenge that we need to undertake, because we needed to form the team. And what we've decided to do was to do something which is much further away of the center of excellence that you see in so many companies, and a lot more grassroots intervention. So as I've mentioned, We have a small central team, a small digital team that supports all of this, and we call the digital team. And then we have what we call a group of people that are much larger. They're all over the company, in the different countries, in the different business areas, in the different corporate areas even. And we call that the digital tribe. So the digital tribe is much larger. It has and is very multidisciplinary. And what happens is all of these people are in their different environments. They don't report to me, by the way. They still report to the business area, but they have a dotted line with the digital team, and they have the same upskilling, the same training, the same tools as everyone. All of them have a common set of ways of working, tools, training. That means that someone in HR can do a project very collaboratively with someone in a cement factory because they use the same tools, they have the same upskilling, they have the same everything. And they do treat themselves as the same tribe, although in different parts of... And with that, you can break the silos a lot easier. And you can have what we want, which is collaboration, because a lot of what we're solving in a factory sometimes has to do with logistics, it has to do with procurement. All of these things you can manage a lot better in a multidisciplinary world. That's what we've created in the company.
And maybe a last one from me. You mentioned about your CEO was supportive.
Yeah.
But obviously a large part of this with the transformation is the data foundation to begin with. So how did you keep the CEO and others on the board engaged on that journey when you're having to get the data right first?
So again, it's because we are using the priority that they also using. It's aligned. So when we are using the priority in terms of business value, in terms of EBITDA that we bring to the company, it's the same thing that they are measuring. It's the same thing that they are going for. So there's alignment in terms of objectives and in terms of strategy. And that helps a lot because the discussions are much easier because everyone is going for the same place. If I had one objective which was different from my CEO and CFO, it would be much harder. This way, it's much easier.
Do we have any other questions from the room? Well, I think we're coming to time, so okay, another minute. But I guess if anyone wants to come and speak to Ricardo afterwards, I know, as I said to you, the British are a shy audience often, so don't raise our hand. He'll be around here. Also at P48, as you can see, but as no one knows where P48 is, it's the Domo stand in the far left-hand corner of the main hall. So please do come over and see us there as well. But
thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ricardo, for your time.